And what Crawford was able to do to him was masterful. I mean, if you watch slow motion replays, I'm like, look at the footwork, the way he would step around, catch him with hooks. He'd stay just out of range where Crawford couldn't, Spence couldn't hit him with a jab. And then he'd lunge in and Crawford would step back and crack him with a hook. And I was like, oh my God, this is the first time that I've really like appreciated just how masterful Crawford was. I think in the past I just discounted the opponents as like, oh, these guys are just flailing, they're not that good. But when I saw Crawford do what he did to Spence, he just took him apart, and physically and emotionally. It looked like it.
It starts with special physical talent and attributes of speed. He was the faster guy. Well-taught technique. His people deserve credit. He's got good people teaching him, preparing him. Power. Length, he's got long arms. He knows how to use that length. That's one of the reasons why he out-jabbed, which I said would be a key for both guys. The jab would be very important, and it was. And then he executes it. But he executes it. See, this is where the difference is. Like I said, they all have talent. Some more, some less. But he executes it within a special vacuum of, the best way I could say, really, of kind of like still air that doesn't exist for many. A cerebral calmness. See, that's the thing that I want to touch on, where everything slows down for him, like it did for Michael Jordan in basketball, Tom Brady in football, where they see things that other people don't see. And, I mean, again, to use another analogy, exaggerated analogy, but again, to get the visual of how special this guy is, to get the point across, like Neo in the Matrix, where the bullets slow down for Neo. And I just wondered, didn't anyone else other than, well, I'm not saying I'm anything special, but didn't anyone else notice his eyes? I mean, we understood his speed and his counterpunching abilities and his power, his instincts even, but his eyes. He saw everything, every nook and cranny, every crevice of an opening before it even opened. And Crawford said what I had said on some of the platforms I'd been interviewed on before the fight, obviously on our platform. He needed Spence to bring the best out of him. He did. That because, like Sugar Ray Leonard needed Tommy Hearns and Roberto Duran and Marvin Hagler to reach his greatness, to unleash it. The great ones need that challenge, that threat. Even if in the end it's just a perceived threat and it doesn't amount to be that threat. It doesn't matter, as it turns out. It just has to be there to awaken them, Ken, to ignite what otherwise lays dormant and doesn't get activated if they don't have that person to bring it out. And that's what the great ones, they thrive for that. It's not just the money. They want to fight the best because they know that's the only way that they will activate the greatness inside themselves, that they will find that place to sometimes they haven't been there before. They know it's there though, and they know that they need that challenge to bring them there. To bring, like I say, a person's body is their house. To open up another room in their house that hasn't been opened, and that's what people like Crawford crave. That somebody will get them to open up those doors, and that's what he did. In the fight plan, I said that Spence gets heavy at times, looking to land the left to the body. We showed that. We illustrated where he'll reach in a little bit, or you can entice him to reach in. We talked about the counterpunching abilities, talked about the well-roundedness, talked about the dimensions of Crawford, that he's more dimensional. And he showed it, that there's so many things he can do. He can get off first. He can control range. He can use his long jab just to keep you where he wants to keep you, to set you up with the other shots, combinations at the right time. But he can counterpunch brilliantly. As I said, he times shots brilliantly. But he showed what we talked about in the fight plan, where he took that little step back. jab, take a little step back, just entice Spence to reach in with the left. And you could see he was prepared. You could see his corner, his training team did their job where they did what we did for the fight plan. They saw the tendencies of of Spence, where he would get heavy with the left hand. He would look to go to the body. You could get him to tilt forward a little bit. And he did. Little step back, and then he caught him from the southpaw position with the left hand and hurt him again. Hurt him many times in the fight. It actually got uncomfortable. It actually got to the torturous sort of, where it was almost torture. The ninth round finally, it just happened because, again, the bricks were pulled from the body, the building, and the body, the building, just collapsed. That was it. Crawford showed all the dimensions that a great fighter, a special fighter has to have. As I said, great counterpunching. He so cerebral. I mean, he came in there with the fisherman's net, and it was we laughed, but it was so appropriate. As soon as I saw it, I said, that's exactly what I've been talking about. He's going to set traps. He knew what he was going to do. He visualized the fight. He saw the whole fight before it ever took place. That's what the special ones do. This fight already had transpired in his mind before he ever got in the ring. That's why I'm taking the time to go over these things, Ken, that it's more than what you touched on. I get it, but it's more than just, he counted, he did this, he could punch, he could, all of that, technically good, all of it. But the mentality, he's got that special mentality. I don't mean this literally, obviously. He is again, just to get to the point, he is a ice cold blooded killer. That's what Crawford is, and that's what Sugar Ray Leonard was. That's what Sugar Ray Robinson was, the original Sugar Ray. And again, I know some people want to hear that word because it's a business where, God forbid, somebody might not come out of the ring, but I'm just making a point that his concentration, his commitment, his whole focus is a different focus. It's a calm. There's no. It's all business. There's nothing personal. He gets to a place where it's only about the mission. It's only about the job. Very few people get to that place where they're that cold about it, where they're so cold about it that they can see things nobody else sees. They can hear things nobody else hears, that nothing distracts them. It got to a point where Spence, you could see it. Damned if I do, damned if I don't. He was afraid to come, and I don't mean afraid in a way of courage, but as far as common sense, as far as he was hesitant to come forward because he knew when he did, he walked into the sausage grinder. So he waited. He's like, if I come forward, I'm going to get counted. But then when he didn't come forward, then he got beat to the punch with the long jab or with combinations behind it. Timed perfectly. So again, he was damned if he did, damned if he didn't. Where he literally had him coming and going, Crawford. And I had said that it was going to start with the jab for both guys. And it did. The jab set the pace, set the tempo. I mean, it stabilized Spence, kept him where he wanted him, put him where he wanted him, stopped him from doing what he wanted to do, and set up the counters, set up the where he got off first, the leads, where he initiated, combinations. It was perfect. Everyone made a big deal about Spence being the naturally bigger guy. I didn't. I kept saying size is not connected or an indicator of power. Punches are born. How many times do you hear me say that, Ken? They're not made. Crawford was obviously the naturally smaller man, but he was the puncher. And I said that on all the platforms. He was the puncher. He was the explosive puncher in this fight. Yeah, I know he moved up 3 weight classes from featherweight originally, but he carried his power. You either are the puncher or you're not. And he was the puncher despite the size. But I also said, I remember people saying to me, but Teddy, Spence is going to go to his body. You know, he's going to be relentless. He's going to go to the body. And I said this. Yeah, he's going to try to go to the body. But to get to the body, he's got to go close. And to get to close, he's got to go through a bad neighborhood to get there. And he might get mugged. You go through bad neighborhoods, sometimes bad things happen.